Hi, this is Jackie, aka Jax, aka Socially Anxious Dragon, and this is the sort of review episode for Jax Does Homestuck. I am here with my roommate Aiden, who has also read Act 1.
I am here too, hello.
Yes. So I thought it'd be fun if I had someone else in here, since, just me talking about it by myself would be kind of boring.
Yeah, you can be kind of boring.
Okay, he's also apparently going to be an asshole on this. So...
Good to know ahead of time.
Yeah. So this is not your first time reading Homestuck. They know that it's not my first time reading Homestuck.
Yeah, I started reading it like 3 years ago, and I don't remember specifically, I want to say like I got partway through Act 6 or so. I stopped reading around the time, well, I guess I shouldn't actually say, because people might be like following along with you and there could be spoilers, but I got decently far, but I never finished. And it's been a while since I read it too, so I definitely need to be starting from the beginning in order to read back on this, so.
I didn't even think about spoilers. I was just planning on talking about a whole bunch of stuff that, like, comparing what happens now to what happens later in the
yeah, isn't the point of this kind of thing that you're doing that people can follow along with it?
Well, yeah, but like they don't have to listen to this episode.
Yeah, here's what we should do. Let's make the first bit of this a spoiler-free segment, and then you can make the rest of it we can just talk as people who have read decently far into Homestuck. And you can just put a timestamp in the thing or whatever to tell people, like, hey, skip to this for spoiler-free.
Yeah, so that's a good idea. I'm glad that we're discussing this on the podcast instead of beforehand.
Behind the scenes!
Yeah!
In front of the scenes. This is just the scenes.
As the McElroys say, a peek behind the kimono.
Okay. I still haven't listened to any of their stuff, so...
I know.
Also, on that note of spoilers, please don't spoil anything for me that happens past the point where you know I've been.
Fuck, I don't know where you've been. You say Act 6, that's like the last half of Homestuck. It ends with like 2 seconds of Act 7, but most of it, Act 6, Act 1, Act 6, Act 2.
Okay, I know I've told you before where I was, but when we get to the non-spoiler part, I will tell you, okay, nothing past this, please.
Do you mean when we get to the spoiler part?
Yes,
This is the non-spoiler part. Everyone, this is the non-spoiler part.
This is the non-spoiler part. This isn't going well so far.
It's going fucking fantastically. This is exactly what I wanted to happen.
Good for you. Okay.
So we'll have to ignore some of my talking points for now. I should have organized that.
Maybe a little bit.
Well, no, for next time. It's fucking Homestuck. There's going to be so fucking much. This first review episode will not mean shit in a while.
Yeah, and speaking of for next time, I already told you this, but I really wish I had thought to be taking notes when I was rereading Act 1 until, like I didn't think to take notes until after I had already finished.
Yeah.
So, the points where I was like, oh yeah, this is hilarious, I forgot how good this was, I might need to remind myself by you talking about them. I didn't do this very well, I'm sorry.
It's our first time doing this. Act 1 is kind of like our testing thing, and we're gonna get better equipment eventually, and just stuff's gonna be better. You just get to deal with us playing around with shit.
Not to mention, and here, let's go ahead and jump into this talking point right now. Nice little segue transition. Act 1 is just as much of a slog to get through as I remember. It's not terrible, but most people are going to be trying to rush through this to get to the good stuff.
Yeah.
So if this is a little junky, I don't think it matters.
So I started Homestuck, I think it was in 2013. It was either 2012 or 2013.
How far along would it have been by that point? What act were they in?
I don't fucking remember at all. I remember that was... I started a bit before the time the Kickstarter came out.
Were trolls a thing yet? Yeah,
trolls were a thing, and so I started... That's what I was getting into, is... because it started in 2009, so trolls were definitely a thing by now.
Was it 2009? I thought it started at 2011.
It's 2009. Literally, the first page is, it is April 13th, 2009. Do you need to reread this again?
No.
Anyway, yeah, no, I was still barely in high school whenever, like, high school for another month whenever this came out, and I did not hear about it. Point being, so by the time I was reading it, I knew a little bit about it, not a whole lot, but I was reading Act 1, and I'm like, where are the goddamn trolls? Like, there's trolls in this, but I'm just dealing with some kids walking around a fucking house.
See, the reason why I started reading Homestuck, like, I was always kind of curious, but never enough to actually get into it. But my boyfriend at the time was, like, stupid huge into it. Like, he had been reading it since it first came out. And he was like, please read this with me, please read this with me, please read this with me. So that's why I finally got started. And because of him, I knew ahead of time certain things. Like, I knew the trolls weren't going to show up until later, that kind of thing. So I wasn't hurt as much by that traitorous act of Act 1.
Yeah, I started because Jeff Jacks, I think.
The questionable content guy.
Yeah,
right?
the questionable content guy. I follow him on Tumblr, and he made a drawing using the Big Brother. Yeah, Dave's brothers. What's his fucking? Well, I know, like.
Is it? I'm pretty sure his name is just Bro.
Yeah, so Bro's glasses. But obviously that's an anime reference too. Like, Bro's glasses are an anime reference.
Yeah,
and so
Lagan. Actually, I know this as weird Homestuck trivia that I know. Yay!
that's what this is.
Yeah. Andrew Hussey, the author of Homestuck, for the like one person listening to this doesn't know that. He actually had never seen Gurren Lagann when he gave him those glasses. He just thought they'd look cool. Someone had to tell him later on that they were like straight off of Kamina's face, and he's like, oh, okay.
That's fucking hilarious. Well, anyway, so Jeff was making a drawing referencing Gurren Lagann, and people started to shit on him and shit on like anyone who thought it was a Homestuck reference and be really shitty about that. And he's like,
of course.
Dude, Andrew Hussey's my friend. Stop being a piece of shit. His comic is fine. And I'm like, oh, okay, because I was super fucking into questionable content then. Like, I still am now, but I'm not nearly as much into webcomics as I used to be.
Gotcha.
Because there are so many, and every time I read one, I find 5 others that I need to read.
There's a lot of good shit out there.
I know, it's the internet is great. You can, like, get so much stuff, and whoever's listening to this, you kind of fucking failed on that point about getting the good stuff.
Shout out to David Willis and Dumbing of Age.
Well, yeah. Okay, I could shout out, like, their whole fucking friend group.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, so that's why I started, because I had kind of heard stuff from it about it being, like, a mildly cringy sort of thing, but I didn't have any real opinions on it or know a whole lot about it, but I'm like, oh, well, creator of questionable content is friends with the dude, and yeah, okay, I'll read it.
Yeah.
So Act 1 was weird for me in that sense. And then how much of a not webcomic it was, while also being a webcomic. Like,
yeah.
The music, okay, I could kind of, like, okay, that's neat, that's okay. Strife? Whenever I clicked on stuff?
I see a lot of people, I guess we're ignoring that first talking point of Act 1 being a slog and just going straight into something else. There's not really much you can say other than, yeah, it's
we don't have to stick with strict talking points. This is supposed to be, like, this is why I wanted you here, so we could have a fluid conversation.
I know. I just, now that I'm thinking...
We can jump back to shit. It's fine.
Yeah, but now that I'm thinking about it, like, let's be honest, there's not a whole lot to say on that point aside
It's kind of slow.
Yeah.
People who know about it are wondering where all the thousands of characters are.
Yeah, but thankfully it's also pretty short compared to the rest of Homestuck.
It's like a fucking blip on the map.
Yeah.
There's statistics out there. Other people have done statistics. Go look it up. I'm not looking it up again.
Yeah, but, okay, so I see a lot of people who like to try and argue that Homestuck is not a webcomic, that it deserves its own classification. There's a whole bunch of terms that I've seen people like make up to try and give it. I can't remember a good chunk of them. One of them I saw getting tossed around a lot like a year or two ago was interactive reading experience.
Well, that's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah.
Like, there was a while where I didn't want to just call it a webcomic because, I mean, I see where they're coming from. There is a lot more to it than a webcomic. There's fucking mini games that happen, not just a little click, 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 but like literally you go around, talk to people, collect items, and all that shit.
Yeah, but
which that's not a spoiler. That's just letting you know stuff that happens. I'm not telling you what's happening in those games.
Yeah,
don't freak out.
And like, but that's my thing on this. Like, people can disagree with me, but fuck it, Homestuck is a webcomic. It definitely pushes the boundaries of like what a webcomic can be, and does a whole lot of really interesting stuff with the medium, but it doesn't need some special thing. It's a webcomic. It's easiest just to call it a webcomic. If you want to make, because honestly, I'm surprised how few webcomics I've seen, or just how few things I've seen try and like emulate Homestuck's thing of like adding a bunch of extra shit like music and mini games to the webcomic thing.
Had something similar with that Satellite webcomic.
I don't know what that is. I haven't heard of that.
Oh, it was really big for a little while, but it only lasted like a month or two.
Gotcha.
But it was about football. I forget what it was called. It was...
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, okay.
It's the year. It was like 21-1, I don't know, some shit like that.
I never read that, but I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah,
but yeah, like, it's surprising to me how few people I've seen try and, like, capitalize on Homestuck's thing. Like, the only other thing I can think of is every now and then you'll see a webcomic decide to make a page a GIF.
Yeah.
That's all I can really think of.
And that's a good point. And I think what it is Homestuck kind of got what webcomics can be. So a lot of people are like, webcomics are just comics on the internet. Some people, I remember reading that some people didn't like the term webcomic because it made it sound like it was lesser than real comics. It's not a real comic, it's a webcomic. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of focus on, no, we'll publish books. Some of them, I've seen some start out as webcomics and end up like in Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with Homestuck. I mean, they have Homestuck books, but you can't experience it through that way. And so that's what's great about webcomics, is how much more you can do than just regular books or other mediums.
Yeah, and the whole thing about, like, webcomics being lesser than real comics, that's the same kind of, like, stupid stigma thing as, like, oh, community college isn't as good as a real college.
I wasn't trying to get into that, because it was really the webcomic artists who were saying that they felt like that was happening. I haven't heard anyone actually say that about comics, but I'm not really into that sort of discussion. I stick with Dragon Age fandoms.
Let's not get into that either.
No, that is not what this is.
I don't have nearly as many webcomics that I follow these days as I used to, but I am still decently enough into the webcomic community, I guess you want to say, where that type of, like, oh, webcomics aren't as good as real comics, or they're not as, like, that has definitely died down over the years. They are definitely getting a lot more respect.
Yeah.
I think maybe because so many people have realized it's such an easy market to get into.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, if I can do this, it's gotta be good.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
But yeah, the whole thing about Homestuck being its own thing, or it's a webcomic. You don't need the special, like, you could, once more things come out that decide to push things a bit more than just a page as a GIF sometimes, start to do a bit more like Homestuck does, then I can totally be down with, like, a special classification of webcomics.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Like, we can have interactive webcomics.
Yeah,
like we'll have slice of life webcomics, we'll have horror webcomics, interactive webcomics.
No, that's the difference between a medium and a genre. Like, that's,
okay.
Well, that's like, it's like stop motion animation or hand drawn animation, but, like, you can still have a horror stop motion and a horror
gotcha,
that kind of thing.
You were talking about that. I thought you were talking about different genre.
No.
But what I did not remember about Act 1, or really what I didn't remember about Homestuck at all, is how much fucking cussing there is.
See, I don't know how you could forget that.
I don't know. I think because I read very quickly. This isn't like me trying to like brag or anything, but I read very quickly, and a lot of that is just I kind of skim, and I can skim to the point. I understand what's going on, but I don't like absorb everything, and that was one of the big reasons I wanted to make myself read it out loud, is so I could actually sit down and absorb everything that was being said instead of just kind of skimming through and getting the general idea.
Which does kind of make sense. I think the reason never like left my mind, like, oh yeah, Homestuck has a lot of fucking cussing, is because probably one of the most popular quotes I ever saw from Homestuck, or at least the one that I saw getting passed around the most when I started reading it, is "caw caw motherfucker."
Well, yeah, so I definitely remember that, and I remember some of that stuff, but I guess I just didn't realize how casually it was thrown in there.
These are some very realistic 13-year-olds.
It is realistic. I was not a realistic 13-year-old. I flipped someone off, and it was like they won the lottery, because that was so not something I did. And they asked me to flip them off multiple times.
Let's be honest, you're not a realistic 27-year-old.
Not a realistic person, I guess. I would not make a good character. There would be a lot of criticism about it. So yeah, that was one big thing that I just like, oh god, there's a lot of cussing, which is great. Like, this isn't like a criticism of cussing or anything. If you cannot tell, we both enjoy cussing quite frequently in conversation.
A little bit. Though, with that, there is also the issue of some less than favorable choices of words occasionally. It only happened once as far as I remember reading through Act 1 again. I definitely remember it happens a couple more times later on.
Yeah, so what I've been doing is I've just been either not using the words or replacing them.
When you're doing your little...
Yeah, whenever I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah,
and this isn't to try to retcon Homestuck and make it better than what it was. It's just, I don't want to push into that. I don't want to be a part of it. So
yeah.
I'm just using different words.
Yeah.
If I don't think that it's something I should be saying, then I just replace it. Like, some stuff I'm gonna have to say no matter what. Some things I'm gonna have to do no matter what. Like, I did not want to be a white person rapping, and here I am, with Dave fucking Strider.
I didn't even think about that.
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
So, unfortunately, I think that was a little bit of a spoiler, but if you can't tell that by who Dave is already...
I think a few things that we can classify, just because of how massive Homestuck is and how out there it is. Like, we already talked about the trolls.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're really bad at keeping this spoiler-free, sorry.
No, like that, like, there's 4 main kids, and there's trolls, and it's really weird. Like, those aren't really spoilers whatsoever.
Okay. I'll let you be on spoiler watch, and I'll just try not to say things.
Okay.
No.
It's like, okay, I'm not going to actually give away anything for, like, the 2 or 3 people that haven't played it yet, but it's like how, like, when it first came out, yeah, there was not going to be any spoilers for the Stanley Parable, but these days, I feel like pretty much everyone knows what the gimmick of that is.
Yeah.
By the way, please fucking go play the Stanley Parable if you haven't yet. Oh my god.
And this week, we'd like to say our sponsor is... No, I'm just kidding. I don't think they have to pay anyone to advertise for, like, Steam.
I highly doubt that.
And fucking one person so far has listened to this, so I really doubt that we're in a market for advertisers.
Yeah. Also, okay, so that's actually something... That's a good talking point for this, since this is Act 1. Because I know there have been some people that have started reading Homestuck because of Hiveswap that just came out a little while ago.
Yeah.
Is there anything... I can't really think of anything, but you might. Is there anything you can think of to say to people that are thinking of getting into reading Homestuck after playing Hiveswap that, like... I don't know, just things to look out for, or, like, don't expect this just because it was in Hiveswap or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, God, that would have been something great to think about before this. Don't expect there to be a lot of... You're not going to see much of anything in Homestuck that you saw in Hiveswap, except for the general setting. there are some hidden things that you can figure out after reading Homestuck, and you say, well, I remember this, this, and this, but it's not like obvious.
Yeah, they did a very good job when making Hive Swap, of making it like it is very obviously within the Homestuck universe to anyone who has read Homestuck, but you in no way need to have read Homestuck in order to enjoy Hive Swap.
No, there's some things you're going to have a better understanding of, like the blood classes and stuff. Blood hierarchy. There we go. I
feel like blood. Well, no, I guess blood classes too.
Yeah.
Isn't it called like the hemoarchy or something like that?
I don't know. I'll remember it whenever I read it again.
Fair. It also does help that Hive Swap is a prequel, which I did not realize when Hive Swap was first coming out. I thought it was going to be a sequel, but in really weird ways that would be super spoilery to talk about, so I will not.
Yes.
But yeah, it also helps that it's a prequel, so that's pretty good.
Okay, is there anything else we can talk about without
that's
spoilers?
Non-spoilery.
Yeah.
I feel like we were talking about something for a second, and then we moved on to the Hive Swap thing and got distracted.
Oh, who the fuck knows? So the in-image links, this isn't a huge talking point, I just wanted to mention it. There's options, and I think they're primarily at the beginning of the game beginning of the webcomic where it doesn't really matter, but there's a point where you can, you're looking at John's CD shelf or game shelf or something, and you can click on it and it will take you to there's links that will take you to the merch store. There's links that will take you to just other MS Paint Adventures stuff.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I'm not going to be clicking on these because it's not plot relevant. It doesn't really add anything. It's, hey, check out this other stuff I do. And it was kind of, I think, more for the people who were familiar with MS Paint in the beginning, because that's what this was mainly made for.
Yeah.
It just gets more relevant later on.
I treat those things as kind of like playing through Skyrim and reading all of the books that you find strewn about.
Oh, yeah.
Or a game like, I know you haven't played this, but a game like Metroid Prime where you can scan things, get data logs, and that kind of thing. It's not super important, but it is kind of neat to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can be skipped, but it's also, it doesn't take much time to just click on it and see something like that. I don't know.
So yeah, it's something I probably won't be doing just because I just don't think that'll be helpful in this, and I just really need to get through as much Homestuck as I can very quickly. I'm not trying to rush it, but there's a lot of content.
Yeah. There's a lot
of
content.
So yeah, if it's plot relevant or helps world building significantly, I'll try to include it. There's some stuff coming up that I'm still debating whether I'm going to include it or not. But I think we'll get to that because it is now spoiler zone. Everything after this is going to be spoiler.
Let's actually rewind a little bit before we get into spoiler territory. One more thing. Don't give me that fucking look.
Okay, well, they already left, but try anyway.
Okay, so in Act 1, the only two main characters, there's also the dad, but the only two main characters that we actually get to see, there's dude with red text and person with green text. I don't know. That's one of those things where at this point I feel like it's not really a spoiler, but just for the hell of it, let's pretend that it is. But, so the only two main characters we've gotten to see so far just in Act 1 are John and Rose. I don't know, first impressions?
This was going to tie in a lot to some future stuff, but I guess I'll stick with first impressions and I'll go into comparing it now in the future. But anyway, Rose was my favorite character from the get-go. As soon as Rose appeared in text form, it's yes, here it is. My favorite character. Stereotyped.
Yeah, because she's pretty much you.
Yeah.
She's got nothing but purple shit, and honestly, she looks like she plays Dragon Age.
Yeah, let's see. I'm really into fantasy shit. I was goth in high school. At the time I started reading Homestuck, I was majoring in psychology. So...
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think... I don't think Rose was ever my favorite character. Like, I love Rose. Rose is
Well,
great.
yeah, I mean, there's so many characters to love.
Yeah, and there are very few characters in Homestuck that I actively dislike.
Yeah.
I feel like anyone who has actually read Homestuck to a certain point knows exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, Rose is great. I like John a lot. I definitely relate pretty closely with John. If only for his love of
shitty movies?
Horrible movies. Though, to be fair, his is unironic and mine is...
Are you sure you don't relate to red text?
Listen, my liking of terrible schlock is a halfway between ironic and unironic. Stop giving me that look. But yeah, no, the first impressions that I got when I first read this and started remembering for rereading is just these characters are a lot of fun. They have a lot of really interesting personality. I like the choice to make the majority of the dialogue, and by the majority I mean like all of it, in like the text chat format, I think is actually one of the smartest fucking things Homestuck ever did, because I think you can, in text, you can feel the most out of a person's personality when it's something like they're just casually typing in a chat room or something.
Yeah, which makes me reading it out loud feel kind of counterproductive. Like, I've been having to decide if I say smiley face or just kind of say things more smiley. I've had to decide, like, okay, well, am I going to do LOL or will I laugh? There's been stuff I've had to decide. It's going to get even worse in the future.
Yeah, you certainly placed a daunting task upon yourself.
Yes.
On the daunting task table.
Yes.
But yeah, no, the choice to have it all in like text chat sort of thing, that was great. You can feel so much of the personality from all the characters. You can immediately tell just like what type of person they are. It's great. I love it. It makes them all so much more memorable than if it was just written out like regular, like, and then he said this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Or speech bubbles is how it would usually go in webcomics.
Fair. Well, you get my point.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, so, okay, now, spoiler territory, spoiler warning.
Okay, so,
You're gonna have to write a timestamp.
Okay, yeah, I guess let me write that down. So the other thing I really like about Rose, and relate to Rose, is she gets really fucking gay. I also get really fucking gay.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? They all get really fucking gay.
Pretty sure most Homestuck readers get really fucking gay.
Yes, like, oh my gosh, and just Dave now, like, where we are now in the story compared to where we are in the future.
That reminds me, okay, so the point that I stopped reading, I just elbowed the cat in the face.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm
Anyway.
sorry, Vincent. But no, the point where I stopped reading, I still need to get to. So I have gotten spoiled for a couple of things later on because I'm on Tumblr.
Yes.
I've seen Trickster mode and everything like that.
Oh,
I know that Jane gets like brainwashed or something, but I haven't gotten to that yet.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure I'm getting close though. Where I ended up, one moment. Excuse me.
Love it.
Where I stopped off was John is hanging out with Ghost Pirate Vriska and the Spider Ancestor and their big like army of ghost pirates, and they're just explaining to him how they plan on fighting Big Bad Muscle Dude.
Yes. Listen.
What's his name again? Caliborn?
Yeah, Caliborn.
Yeah, okay.
I wanted to say Cronus, and I'm like, that's not it.
Also, at the point where I am, I know that Caliborn is the big bad, although it was pretty
really obvious. Hey, there's this big old green guy.
Yeah.
And a very small green guy.
For a second, I wanted to call him a leprechaun, and then I remembered that's the name of those other dudes.
Yeah, that's the other dudes.
Cherubs, that's what they're called.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, oh my
Getting
gosh.
off track. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah, sorry, now I'm just thinking about Ghost Pirate Vriska and how fucking gay I am.
Oh, good lord.
But we'll get into that later. That's a whole other conversation.
I guess I can't say much. I do think I forget, Aradia? No, not Aradia. The ancestor, the one who's always spouting off trivia. The spider ancestor.
I forget her name as well.
You know who I'm talking about, though.
I know.
Yeah, I can't say much because she's pretty hot.
Yeah, so anyway, that's besides the point. We're not anywhere close to that happening. Jesus.
When do we talk about tentapulches?
Okay, I don't.
Moving on.
Can we?
You're just staring off into the distance with a blank face. Oh my god.
So, another thing is just... This probably could have been included in the non-spoilers, but what the fuck ever. How, just in-universe, all the sci-fi shit that happens with Esper is just fucking accepted.
Yeah,
like,
this super could have been on the non-spoiler part.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, so this video game is letting you control my house.
Based on... Okay, well, this will be what allows it to be in the spoiler territory.
Okay.
Based on things that I vaguely remember happening way later on, like after they've all gotten, like, what was it, God mode or whatever?
God tier?
God tier, yeah. Based on things that happen way later on with how characters start reacting to things, I feel like it's supposed to come off as just like, they are all in a very high level of stress-induced denial about what the fuck is going on.
Oh, that would make sense. It's just like, you know, they have people saying that they're trolls. No, not like internet trolls, like real literal trolls. And then, like,
Okay, you're talking about past Act 1, right? There wasn't any talk about the trolls in Act 1.
No, well, it's not in Act 1, but...
Okay.
But in later acts, we find out that they had talked to them pre-Act 1 timeline.
Well, okay, yeah, but that's just... Like, they were always kind of, like, laughing in the back at the joke about them being trolls. Like, they never actually fully believed them until...
That's exactly what I'm saying. They didn't believe that they were trolls. That they're like, haha, yeah, internet trolls, okay.
Okay, yeah.
And then, so they don't accept that at all, even though... There's someone telling them right there, like this. And then, like, they get a fucking game that lets you control each other's houses, and they don't blink. And then there's characters who don't want to play it. Dave doesn't want to play this game. Hi, it's literally a scientific breakthrough. I can control your house.
Okay, on that note, as far as we know, the only information that Dave has on Esper at that point is the terrible game bro thing, so he's out of the loop. I feel like no one knew what the fuck they were getting into until they actually started getting onto it.
Well, yeah, I guess that's fair, but and then Dave just has this stupid reputation to upkeep, and I love Dave. Listen,
Dave is the greatest.
The two people I have always related to the most from the beginning have been Dave and Rose.
Gotcha.
And I've always had a very hard time relating to John and... How did I forget her name?
Why did I almost say Josh?
Yes, her name is Josh. Green text. Shit.
See, it doesn't help that, like, later on when we get the other set of kids, so many of them have such similar names.
Yeah, like Jane.
Yeah, I always get people messed up.
Yeah.
It's... Not June. Oh god, you're the worst.
I know. Like, hey, I love Homestuck so much, I'm going to...
Jade,
that's right.
Oh,
I knew it was another, like,
J
name.
J.
Not Jackie, that's me. But, yeah, so anyway, I just had a very hard time relating to John and Jade. Versus, you know, how I related to Rose and Dave and then other characters later on, of course, because there are so many characters out there. How can you relate to 0 of them?
Yeah. I feel like the majority of the characters that I relate to, like, I know we're getting into spoiler territory stuff, but this might as well wait to get talked about until we actually get to most of these characters, so I'll skip over that. But in the beginning here, and again, he's not technically in Act 1, so this doesn't really work, but...
That's fine. We're in spoiler.
Yeah, not Dirk. Oh my god. Dave. Fuck. Dave was my favorite character in the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Like, he was such an asshole, and you knew it wasn't completely sincere, and he was, like, trying to make it be sincere.
Yeah. Plus, like, again, not in Act 1, we'll wait to talk about it when it gets to it, but some of the best stuff in the, like, when we get to Act 2, some of the best stuff that happens in early Homestuck is with him.
Oh my god, yeah. I am getting into that. I just actually did the next episode after Act 1, so my brain's been having a hard time, like, no, that didn't happen in Act 1. You just already recorded the first part of Act 2.
Gotcha.
Which is why I brought up the rapping, because I've already done that. That's already happened.
Good to know.
Good to know.
I know what episodes to skip if I ever listen to your thing.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Not this next episode after this one, but the next one I need to record is going to be entirely Dave's point of view.
Oh, gotcha.
So I'll be getting into that. And it's just going to be so troubling because of what we know of future Dave and, I don't know, just his relationship with his bro.
Yeah. Again, stuff to talk about later, but...
Yeah, stuff we'll get into more later.
Shit goes deep.
I'll probably start getting into this a lot more once I finish with Act 2 and we do the review for that.
Yeah.
But
How much
yeah.
longer is Act 2 compared to Act 1? I forget.
It's not a lot longer.
I forget. Is Act 1 the shortest act, or is that like Act 3?
Let me look. I actually have this written down here.
Because of course you do.
Listen, I was trying to figure out stuff. So...
I feel like these are some of the points where you're going to want to go in and editing and just kind of like snip out tiny little segments.
No, they can hear my paper rattle. It's fine.
Hooray.
So, Act 1 is 247 pages and 12,598 words.
Okay, I didn't ask for a full rundown. I just asked which one was shortest.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I figured I would talk while I was reading.
Fair.
That's what I do. Anyway, so Act 2 is over double that.
Gotcha.
Act 3 is a lot closer. It's 19,000 words. So yeah, it looks like Act 3 is the shortest.
Okay.
No, Act 3 isn't the shortest. Fuck, what did I just say? Act 1's the shortest.
With Act 3 is kind of a close second.
Yes.
Yeah. And then later on, it gets insane.
Yes. Like I said, Act 6, Act 1, Act 6, Act 2, it's fucking something else.
Yeah.
It was very confusing while I was reading it.
Also, I know everyone complains about this, but what is the point of that? There was no reason to do that. Just...
I'll get into that whenever we get into those acts.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to develop a theory, but I just want to wait until I actually go back and read them some more in order to kind of get into it.
Gotcha.
So.
Okay.
I think that's about it for Act 1. I mean, not a whole lot happened. We didn't get many big reveals. Like,
yeah.
we were only getting kind of a brief intro to the world.
I feel like the biggest thing that happened is oh fuck, that's a meteor.
Yes. Oh fuck. Oh fuck. What do you mean that happened? Holy shit. I did not expect this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is it for this review episode. We'll be starting on Act 2 next. Like I mentioned, I already have it recorded, the first part recorded, so that'll be up on time.
I still have to read Act 2 because I've been doing my own shit.
Yeah, well, who cares about your own shit? You're supposed to be doing this with me. Yeah, he's giving me a nasty look. This is an audio medium.
I'm aware. I'm hoping people can hear me flipping you off.
Oh, like you're not even actually okay, there we go.
Anyway.
So, if...
This did not go nearly as long as I was expecting it would.
I know.
Again, Act 1 is kind of short.
Yeah, and it's good. We shouldn't have it far too long. But, so, if you would like to start getting these episodes a day early, then become a supporter on Patreon. My username on there is Socially Anxious Dragon, so it's patreon.com/sociallyanxiousdragon. It's spelled how you think it's spelled, all one word.
It's nice that Patreon decided to stop being shitty after like 2 or 3 weeks.
What?
Wait, did you not actually hear about that?
No.
When they started, like, there was a period like a month ago or so where Patreon announced that they were going to start like charging.
Oh, they stopped doing that?
Oh yeah, they dropped
See,
that.
I heard about it, and then I didn't hear anything else.
Yeah, they dropped it after like 3 weeks at most. I think it might have even just been 2 weeks, but they dropped it after a bit when people were complaining so much.
Yeah, because it was like, okay, well, like, all of my subscribers, or all of the people supporting me, like, left.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you don't have to deal with that. So even the smallest donation tier is $1, because that's the smallest I can go. So $1 will get you a day early access to the episodes. I'm going to start figuring out some other content to post on there. Right now, I'm still getting into everything, and it's not the easiest, especially during Act 1. There's not like a whole extra bonus shit I can do. But I'll start adding more stuff, and there'll be more information on the Patreon page.
Pledging $200 will get Jackie to release an entire CD of all the rapping segments.
Don't say that. Honestly, though, if you guys want to give me $200, I'd do a lot.
The cover for the CD should just be you in Dave cosplay.
I won't take much more. I already have some pretty bomb glasses. So... Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you to Andrew Hussey for creating Homestuck.
Thank you to Jeff Jocks, apparently.
Well, yeah, for introducing me to it. I probably would have gotten into it anyway. What are you talking about? Homestuck is right up my fucking alley. There's no way I wouldn't have gotten into this shit.
Fair.
He just sped along the process. But yeah, and thank you to Aiden for joining me for this.
You pay my rent. I had no choice.
Okay. We're going to be a little asshole about it again. We just start off being an asshole, we're going to end being an asshole.
Hey, I was good in the middle. That's what's important.
Okay. Anyway, next episode will be posted on Friday, unless you are a supporter on Patreon, and then it will be posted on Thursday. I will see you then.